What is Bitcoin? Well, if you figure it out, let me know in the comments. No, but seriously, you may have heard about all these people that have become millionaires from cryptocurrency. They've bought into all these tokens at early stages and are now icons in their space. But before we get into the question of what Bitcoin is, we need to ask ourselves, what is money? Well, it is influence, and for thousands of years, these high-profile figures and governmental bodies have controlled this influence and power from the everyday person by building systems to control their wealth. Every single day, billions of people work tirelessly to earn a living through their job, however consumed by the materialistic things that money can buy. Money now translates to social media, where these influencers gather likes and views to gain popularity in the quest for more money and influence. Now finally, what is Bitcoin? It's the ability to decentralize a monetary system. Now don't feel lost or confused by these big words, because when I first started in this space, I was so confused as well. But Bitcoin allows us to finally take control of our money for the first time in human history, because it was made by the people for the people. No one owns or handles Bitcoin. It is simply mathematical equations that have built a democratized system in which allows humans to trade their goods and possessions. And that's what's beautiful about it. Hey guys, it's Hayden, and I'm on a journey to educate millions of people on personal finance. And in this video, I'm going to teach you on how this cryptocurrency thing will be utilized now and into the future. Follow my social on the screen right now, and of course this video is for educational purposes only, but without further ado, let's get into it. Bitcoin is a digital currency that allows us to formulate a new way to pay for things online. It gets rid of the middleman by avoiding any banks or credit card companies that transact for us. These organizations take a small cut of every transaction that you make, and no one really notices this. And we also trust these companies to keep our money safe. So instead of trusting these people that are, yes, legally obliged to transact for us through governmental protection from the likes of fraud, instead we can trust complex programs and mathematics that don't rely on anyone and creates, in fact, the fundamental basics of the universe we live in. This mathematics uses something called proof of work, that is a form of cryptographic proof in which one party proves to others that a certain amount of specific computational effort has been expended. Verifiers can subsequently confirm this expenditure with minimal effort on their part. These parties approve the computations of what we call the Bitcoin miners, which I'm sure most of you have heard of, but they basically just solve complex math problems in return for earning Bitcoin. And no, these aren't just a bunch of nerds in a basement solving math problems. They're just computers that are hooked up to the Bitcoin network and solve these equations for you. And with the right equipment, anyone can do it. Now, how do these Bitcoin miners earn Bitcoin? Because it can't just appear out of thin air. Well, it kind of actually does. You see, the maximum amount of Bitcoin that there will ever be is 21 million. Now, here it starts to get a little bit complicated, so if you ever get confused, just press the J button on your keyboard and it'll skip back 10 seconds. When transactions happen on the Bitcoin network, like if you bought groceries with Bitcoin, that data gets stored in something called a block. And when the miners solve math problems, it completes the block, thus completing the transaction, and in return they receive a Bitcoin reward. When Bitcoin first came out, each reward was 50 Bitcoin. So at today's current price of roughly 30,000 US dollars, that 50 Bitcoin would be worth approximately $1.5 million. However, just on every 4 years, the reward cuts in half in something called the halvening. So when it first came out, that 50 Bitcoin reward 4 years later cut to 25, then 12.5, and now today it's 6.25. So as the supply naturally goes down every 4 years, the laws of supply and demand govern that the price will generally go up as the network or adoption grows bigger. And all of this happens on what is called the blockchain. This is all because, as I said earlier, each transaction happens through blocks. So a chain of all these blocks together becomes the blockchain, obviously. I'm also going to leave a popular guide on what Bitcoin is more in depth in the description below, but let's look into who created Bitcoin. Back in 2009, someone under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto created this thing called Bitcoin just after the 2008 global financial crisis. We don't know if this is one person or a whole group, but all we know is this. In 2008, Satoshi published this thing called a white paper. This is kind of the outline of what Bitcoin actually is, kind of like a report on it. And they called Bitcoin in the title a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. In its early stages, Satoshi worked with other developers through forums and conversed through email to help improve the program. However, on December 12, 2010, Satoshi posted his last message in a forum and disappeared forever. Ooh, the drama. Oh God. No one ever met Satoshi in person, and to this day people claim to be him, however have never provided any real proof. The originally presumed Satoshi Nakamoto was a man named Dorian Prentice Satoshi Nakamoto. Seems fitting, right? And on the 6th of March 2014 was interviewed on his possible relations with Bitcoin. nonetheless was unable to be proven as the founder and never claimed to be Satoshi. However, the power of Bitcoin isn't just in the trust in its system, but the trust in Satoshi himself. Being a political figure with such high power that nobody knows can be really influential for both the good and bad. And as we spoke about earlier, money has been seen as an influence. And if Bitcoin, the ideology of freedom, was to be influenced too heavily, the world would lose trust. You see, trust in human psychology can be quite complex. If we found out one day who Satoshi was and they had some bad reputation or a criminal record, although the Bitcoin system hasn't changed, people lose trust in Satoshi himself as he owns over 1 million of the possible 21 million circulating supply. Thus, if he or she would ever be revealed, it would create distrust by its holders and likely crash the price. Although this is just what the general opinion is and doesn't necessarily mean it would happen. However, it would be the worldwide headline and likely cause fear in general. I want to give a quick shout out to Andrei Juk, who is obviously much bigger than me. However, he introduced me to this theoretical concept from 1964, where a Russian physicist named Nikolai Kardashev created these three classifications of kind of tiers that represent humanity and or alien life. It's called the Kardashev scale that ranks the technological capabilities of a civilization. Why are scientists so selfish with naming stuff after them?
I don't know. I think that's a bit dodgy, mate.
Now this is quite abstract, but we can rank type 1, type 2 and type 3 civilizations based on the energy output or the energy that it can exploit. For example, we start at type 1, which is a planetary civilization. A planetary civilization can source its energy from the sun and control the happenings of weather and natural disasters. So humans can control whether they want warm or cold weather and prevent stuff like hurricanes and tornadoes and tsunamis and earthquakes from ever happening at all. So essentially we have control over all the power in our planet sustainably. Now type 2 is a stellar civilization that can utilise these things called Dyson spheres, which are giant megastructures able to harness the energy from the sun by completely surrounding it and mining its energy. And once that civilization reaches type 2, it becomes immortal because we can jump between planets, so if Earth dies out, we can go to another that is habitable. Unless obviously a more advanced civilization just decides to kill us all. But other than outside threats, it becomes immortal. Now finally, a type 3 civilization is a galactic civilization, where this life can travel between any galaxy and it's essentially like the MCU or Star Wars. Minus Thanos trying to kill everyone and giant green dudes. Now Freeman Dyson, the guy who popularised the concept of the Dyson sphere, scientists really are the most selfish people. He stated that our civilization will be able to reach type 1 in 100 to 200 years, type 2 in 11,200, I guess is what you call it, and type 3 in 100,000 to 1 million years. I know I've gone into all this theoretical stuff and space and all this random stuff, and you're asking, what does this have anything to do with Bitcoin? Well, in order to become a type 1 civilization, we need to take control of our planet, but also our money. And cryptocurrency is a system to do it because for the first time in human history, it doesn't need permission from a government or a higher body to exist at all. Now that Bitcoin has been built, similar to the internet, it can't just be turned off. And a universal set of cryptocurrencies will provide a more adaptable civilization for future growth. Bitcoin isn't just a way to gather a strong return on investment. It is an investment into sovereignty of economic opportunity for people all around the world to build equity and financial systems free from the government. Zimbabwe in 2007 experienced the economic demise of its country. It's hard to know exactly how much the Zimbabwe dollar lost as the government stopped posting statistics after it saw over 100,000% inflation. And we're complaining about a mere 8% a year. And at the time, one loaf of bread in Zimbabwe cost over $30 billion. Currently, Argentina's inflation rate is at over 80%, Turkey's at 70%, and here are the countries around the world that are above the US just this year. We have a few at the top with over 200% inflation, and many that are over 20% before we get to go all the way down to the US. So a currency that is free from these clearly troubled governments that can be universal, truly can be helpful for people suffering around the world financially, and create a better world where everyone has equal opportunity to use the same currency. Of course, being born in a third world or poorer country gives clear disadvantages to job opportunities. However, Bitcoin still gives a better hope for these people. El Salvador, for instance, broke worldwide news as it legalized Bitcoin as a legal tender on the 9th of June 2021. Just recently, a leaked US crypto bill that will provide regulation clarity for cryptocurrency came out. So as the adoption of Bitcoin and other currencies such as Ethereum, XRP and Cardano expand, we can envision a more appropriate financial system that can help us transact worldwide without borders. Like I said, Bitcoin is just a device to a more flexible financial system. And as an investment, I'll always be long-term bullish on the cryptocurrency market in general and how it's endorsed and embraced into society. And it's off script, but I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is how we're going to ascend our technological advancements into a better future. And I think that's what's really important. But with that said, thanks guys for tuning to the video and why I'm all in Bitcoin and its future in general. Click on my last video where I showed you how to retire early. And don't forget to like and subscribe because I'm trying to get my message out to as many people as possible, and you supporting the channel will help contribute to that mission. Below are my socials, but anyway guys, heading out.